I looked at it and realized that everything in it was a superfood except for the baking soda. I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. It's delicious, it's nutritious, it's gluten-free, it's dairy-free.
Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast providing career and creative inspiration to help you build a purpose-filled life. If you're interested in tapping into your creative potential, pursuing a career with passion, and building on your biggest and best resource, yourself, please join me on this path. I'm your host, Nancy Moore, and I want you to know that I'm on this journey with you. So let's get started. Today, I am visiting with Tia Baker. She is the founder of Tia's Superfood Brownies. And Tia has the perfect name for her current calling. She is baking up tasty treats that are healthy. Her gluten-free diet over the past 20 years presented challenges in restaurants and in other places. And so it was in 2019, while on a family road trip, that she had an epiphany. She decided that she could create healthy and delicious gluten-free options for people. And in her quest to develop the perfect treat, she realized that she was including superfoods into her tasty creations. And so not only are her brownies delicious, they're nutritious. And I will tell you, it took her many months of perfecting her recipes, and she was doing this all while teaching full-time. So yes, you heard that right. Her background is in education, and she put that on the back burner, pun intended, to work on her superfood brownie mix. And the creations that she has come up with, absolutely delicious. And if you're wondering what superfoods are, I will share, according to the Cleveland Clinic, superfoods are foods that have a very high nutritional density. They contain a high volume of minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants. And so after tasting these brownies at Bone Broth Bar, I just knew that I had to visit with Tia because I wanted to hear more about her journey in making the brownies, because it's such a new business, and I wanted to share how good they are and let you hear from the baker directly on her inspiration and why she decided to start Tia's Superfood Brownies. So I hope you enjoy this visit with Tia. Okay, hi everybody. I am so happy to be visiting with Tia Baker today. Welcome to the podcast,
Thanks.
Tia.
Thanks. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to share my story.
Yes.
You know, I haven't even done that actually on my social media feed completely yet. So this was a prompting that I need to do that. So this is terrific.
Good.
So yes, the idea was born in 2019, and that's on our website. We do a little blurb, as well as you said, we list the stores that we're in, over a dozen of them around Tulsa right now. And I have people in Chicago, where we moved from 10 years ago, who are like, come on, mail these. They're hard to mail right now, but we're working on that as well. So in 2019, my family went on a road trip. Now, mind you, I'd already been gluten and dairy sensitive for 20 years. And basically wasn't always really adhering to that. But I'm not celiac. So I don't have such a strong reaction, but my body needs me to eat gluten-free and dairy-free. On that road trip, we went along the West Coast, and we also went to the East Coast that same summer. And that was, my daughter was looking for a grad school, so the trips were about that. And I was shocked that even in some of the big cities, Boston, and then in the cities along the West Coast, San Francisco and such, it was still so hard to find gluten-free. And when I found gluten-free, it wasn't always nutritious. In fact, it pretty much wasn't. It was often too sweet for me. So that's something else. Too much sugar, I know, is not good for my body, and I will feel it. So I avoid excessive sugar. And my daughter is particularly dairy sensitive. So that's how it started. On that road trip, we were keenly aware that it just still isn't available even in the big cities. So I had this aha moment of, okay, I've always messed with making things healthier, less sugar for my family when they were young, kids growing up, and making it gluten-free because my son was particularly sensitive to that, and being careful with the dairy for my daughter. So the whole time myself being sensitive to both those. So I launched out. Now, baking is not my thing. Like they assume that I love baking. No, I love making something healthy that my family would enjoy. So I'm the one who constantly altered Aunt Susan's tremendous baking recipes where she'd make these treats that we'd have every summer when we visited, and then we'd come back with her recipe, and the kids were always saying, "Mom, what'd you do?" Well, I cut the sugar in half and I did this, that, or the other thing, but it was never quite as good. So I did launch in head on and tackled this one, and my goal was to make it absolutely delicious and gluten-free and dairy-free. And I went for the vegan because I was already that close, and I know that there's people who are vegan who also are lacking choices that are nutritious. And my daughter particularly will choose vegan things knowing that that means they're dairy-free. That was her signal too. So doing all of that, when it was all said and done, with my bent on being kind of health conscious, I looked at it and realized that everything in it was a superfood except for the baking soda. I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. It's delicious, it's nutritious, it's gluten-free, it's dairy-free. When I say that too, I want to be sure that you know and others know that 3 of them I made because I absolutely love them, but they're not the same level of nutrition. I started with the triple chocolate, and it is amazingly nutritious. When you look at how many superfoods are in it, it's over a dozen superfoods, and you can literally go count them because on our website you can pull up the ingredients. And so I made the chocolate peanut butter, the chocolate raspberry, a chocolate mint. There's the options for flavors are also on and on. I haven't done them all. And then I made one that didn't have chocolate, the maple blondie, and it's amazing. The maple blondie, like the triple, no added sugar. It is sweetened by things that are in it, like sweet potato and maple syrup and coconut sugar, all because of who I am. I made them as little sweetness as I could and still have them delicious. So they're amazing.
They're amazing. Okay, well let me
Sorry,
I love it. So I want to talk to you about your previous career.
Okay.
So this is fairly new, even though you're saying you've taken recipes and you've adapted them and all of that. So if you'll share with people about your previous career and then actually taking the leap into this. So what did you do before this?
So I am a teacher by trade, elementary school. So when we were living in the Chicago area where I raised our children, I actually homeschooled for a big chunk.
Okay.
All right. And worked for my mom's business. And then when we lived in a Chicago suburb and were raising our children, I actually homeschooled for 7 years, but then got back into teaching because I totally missed it. I love teaching. So in the public school there, I taught 7th grade language arts. I love reading and writing, especially writing. When we moved to Tulsa, I began teaching the Broken Arrow school system, 5th grade. Have taught there. I put in 9 years. So, but I had to take a pause to start the business because I couldn't multitask and do both. I did try, but I couldn't pay attention enough to the business. So that is on pause. And
so you felt that draw though to lean, because you decide, do you lean into teaching and this is more of a hobby, a side hustle? And I guess it was a side hustle and you decided you wanted to grow that. And so you took the leap. This
came as a summer idea after those summer trips. I just need to do this. I had a little bit of time to get started on the recipes, creating things, and I kept doing that. I would actually teach 5th grade classroom during the day, come home, work on recipes for hours at night. and bring them in for not the kids to taste. They all wanted to, because I would talk about it honestly in my math class, because oh my goodness, when you're creating recipes, you are using fractions so much. So I brought it into
the math that comes in handy.
Yes, so I brought it into our conversation here and there, but my friends at school would taste them. So in Roy, he had a lot of people where he works who were tasting them. For the 2019 through 2020, developing the recipes and teaching during the day and having friends sample them, that was what my 2020 was. In 2020, I still went to teach that year. I love teaching. So in 2020, I taught during the day and was developing the recipes at night still. It took me over a year to really tweak them to get them right where I wanted. So I was planning to launch the business, Roy and I, together in 2020, but I would be able to do it, like you said, as a side hustle, get it started, but be teaching. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Teaching during the COVID year was so intense. There was no time, and I had nothing left to give to the business. So it sat still for quite a bit, months upon months. And then in the summer of 2021, I should back up to spring, we got into the launch class at Kitchen 66 to help us launch the business. And we realized that I wouldn't be able to teach and launch the business that following year. So I took 2021 off from teaching to launch the business. And Broken Arrow's awesome. They were able to let me just press the pause button and then decide after that. So then this last summer, I also realized this is moving forward. It's wonderful, but still needs my attention. And when I teach, I give teaching my all. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't do both. Mm-hmm. I need to give the brownie business my all. So I am doing the brownie business this year as well. And I do look forward to teaching again, but I also don't know one step ahead of the other. I'm just walking this out.
Mm-hmm. So this is very different than teaching, this business side of it. And so I admire you for taking that step and not having a background in business. And it doesn't sound like your husband has a background in business. And so to get going can be kind of, daunting or a little scary. But I thought if you want to talk about your roles and maybe what you've learned along the way that has helped you in furthering your business.
So this was definitely a launch of faith. Definitely felt called to do this because it didn't already exist, and I was pretty sure I could pull something together.
Yeah.
And then when we found out how delicious they were and everyone loved them, even people who didn't eat gluten-free were like, these are amazing. Mm-hmm. So I knew I needed to bring it to the market, but no, I didn't have any experience doing that. So I did read a couple of business books, definitely put my ear to the wall and Googled things, and yes, it's still a step of faith because the whole food industry, I'm still learning, of course, and it's huge.
Yeah.
And it's totally different than teaching.
Yeah.
But I love writing and I love reading, and that's what I first taught. That comes into play, and so does my love of math. So not only are the recipes all about numbers, but when you're calculating how much does it cost for me to make this, and what can I sell it for, and how's the price point, that has totally come into play as well.
Okay.
So I'm doing my best.
Smart. Yeah. And you are resourceful, and you're able to talk to different people, and
totally need other people to make this work. Still need more people. Yeah. I mean, I really, really want to make these available to people nationwide. That's really my dream.
I believe you're going to do it. I think that your trajectory... Well, yeah, true. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but your trajectory, I think, is definitely headed that way. And you guys, you got to try these products. They're amazing, these brownies. But I am wondering about Kitchen 66 because being able to be a baker and have food, there are certain laws and regulations, and I'm not super familiar with all of those, but I know Kitchen 66 is a place where here in Tulsa that you're able to rent out that space and utilize the kitchen. But if you'll kind of just tell us about that process.
So my daughter loves to bake. She became aware of the Kitchen 66 launch program, and that's how I found out about it.
Okay.
And it's a perfect fit even for the home baker. who's doing, there's a new law that allows home bakery to make a good living. Okay, so you can do that. I went the commercial route. So I have a commercial license because I want to, as I said, go nationally. That would really be a dream come true because I want it to be available to more people. So the launch program teaches you some of the business angles, all of the food license, food processing information, all of that, and helps you focus what your goal is and how you're going to go after that in the food market. So it's wonderful for that. So they take applications. They just recently chose their people for their next launch program. I think it's 3 times a year. So you just go to K66 launch program. It's through the Lobeck Foundation. And it's also happens at Mother Road Market. If you've never been there, it's a fabulous place. A lot of the food places there started in the launch program. And for those of us who are a packaged good like myself, they opened up the general store. So they call it the Kitchen 66 General Store. And that's the first place that my brownie was sold. And it's still there. It's in the fridge. It sells phenomenally well. And so you've got those avenues, whether you're going to be a packaged good or you're going to have a food truck, they have that as well. So it's terrific for getting that started.
So you're still able to stay there even though they're accepting new people into the program, the current existing folks who are there?
Yes, they're teaching in the launch classes how to get your business off the ground, your food business. But they also have kitchen space, commercial kitchen. So you have to be licensed yourself as well to do what I'm doing through the commercial kitchen. But I rent space there, rent refrigerator space, dry space, and rent the ovens and all of that. Yes. So
okay. That's nice to know that part. So I'm going to share with you, I didn't share this with you before, but I grew up with a mother who gardened and baked her own bread. And she ground the wheat and baking cookies. She made them with carob chips, and she knows. And I will tell you, at the time, I didn't really know any different. And so when my friends would be over, we'd offer them a chocolate chip cookie, and they didn't like them because they're not used to that. But I loved them because that's what I was used to growing up on. But anyway, so she really gave us, our family, the best of all of that. And so I relate very well to what you're doing and wanting to spread that on a larger scale, because being healthy and eating clean is so important to me. And so I shared with Tia, I'm not dairy free, I'm not gluten free, but I choose to just try to eat as healthy as I can. And so these brownies provide that option for me. And so I don't feel guilty, and I feel great, and they are delicious. So
I love that because, it's not just for your gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan person. It has less sugar and more fiber. And we've all become so much more aware of that, even because of COVID, that your gut health is important. Feed yourself well. Food is medicine. It's important. What you eat, what you put in affects your health. It affects your immune system. It affects the whole thing. And less sugar is better, and more fiber is better. And so creating these, it's also for the person who just, I'd like a treat, but I don't want that sugar crash, or I don't want it to affect my gut negatively. Like, I'm sensitive to sugar, but sugar isn't in too much, in excess, it's not good for any of us. So that being said, it's more nutritious. And yet I believe, because everyone says these are amazing, that I captured the delicious and nutritious.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait to see what flavors are to come. I know you have a lot of ideas.
Yes.
So as you're growing the business and taking some next steps, that's awesome. But I thought I'd just ask, is there something that has been hard for you during this process? And then, maybe something that you've had to overcome in this process that you can share with people, what it was and how you've done it.
Okay, so I think of a couple things. When we would do the pop-up, which is a place that Mother Road Market gives its entrepreneurs and people in the launch class a little spot there by the patio door. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but you've got a space to sell. So selling direct to the customer was huge. I learned so much because we had to draw people in who would see that it was gluten-free. Like if they knew it was gluten-free, they're like, no, I like gluten. I'll take all the gluten I can get. Yes.
Okay.
Or if we said it's healthy, it's a healthy brownie, they're like, right. So I loved being able to give out samples right there and then and watch their jaw drop. Mm-hmm. Seriously, it happened so much. We're selling about 1,000 brownies a month now, but it was hundreds of brownies that we've sold that way direct to the customer where I got to see their reaction. Mm-hmm. And their jaw would drop and they would go, oh my gosh, you're kidding. These are good for me. And they'd still look a little perplexed. So I would say, yes, it's made with organic almond butter and organic sweet potato. And it's got chia seed and flax seed. And it's sweetened with organic maple syrup and organic. And they'd start to just wide-eyed. And they'd be, oh my gosh. So that was fun. But overcoming that whole reason I made these, that gluten-free usually is dry and gritty, mm-hmm. or it's too sweet, or it just doesn't taste good. Mm-hmm. That was my experience and other people's too. So the whole gluten-free stigma is negative, and I had to overcome that. And if you say something's healthy, it usually tastes healthy. I don't know, like your friends, mm-hmm. when your mom made a chocolate chip cookie, yes.
True.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm that mom who mm-hmm. also, Mom, what'd you do to this? It tastes healthy when the kids were younger. So we're as a society, sugar is very addictive and it tastes absolutely amazing. So it's a little more difficult to make something taste delicious that's not made with refined sugar. So that's why this was so exciting, to work at it so diligently. And I tried to add up the hours, but it's a huge amount of time that it took. But to have gotten it to that point where people, don't need to eat healthy, don't want to eat healthy, whatever, they go, these are delicious. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
But I've never thought about that side of it. People that maybe don't necessarily want to grab something healthy or have something gluten-free because there is that stigma.
Yes. And also kids, if you have a birthday party, if you bring treats to school, if your child needs to eat dairy-free or gluten-free or whatever else, there's a couple, we don't have any eggs in here, but there's almond butter or there's peanut butter. So nut allergy to peanuts, I've got a peanut butter brownie. Mm-hmm. So any nut allergies, then it may not be quite for that. But the child who wants something delicious, there's kids who absolutely love these. Moms are sending me pictures all the time. Mm-hmm. My child loves this and thank you. It's, mm-hmm. They needed this. Because moms nowadays, they want to give their kids more nutritious items, but they still want them to be delicious. Mm-hmm. Well, this fits that niche. Mm-hmm. I have people who eat some of these brownies for lunch or breakfast. Literally, the maple blondie is full of oatmeal and lots of good stuff, like superfoods. That's why I call them Superfood Brownies. Okay. But you could eat that for breakfast.
Right.
Totally. So I'm looking at a package now, and it is 12 grams of protein, no added sugar. Total sugars are 17 grams. So that's coming from your maple syrup, your coconut sugar, even the sweet potato. And the dietary fiber is 6.
So let me ask then about the business side of things and what you have enjoyed about having this business and what you found difficult, because being out on your own is not just getting to go to your classroom and teach and be with the kids. Yes. This is a very different life and a very different path that you're currently on. And so if you could kind of share about that.
Creating is so much fun, and it's so gratifying to create something that others love. And that just reminds me, you know what, I'll go to Bone Broth Bar, or when I go to Pure Food and Juice, places where I'm restocking, I literally get people, because I'm wearing my t-shirt and they'll know, who give me a hug. I've had many a stranger hug say thank you so much. So even though there are challenges, and we'll talk about that, the creating and the meeting a need is so, so rewarding. So have I had times of being tearfully like, oh my gosh, this is challenging? Yes. And it's usually those times where I run into a customer who one time, it was actually Turkey Mountain, I was taking a hike, and we crossed paths with someone who saw my shirt because I'd done deliveries that day or whatever, and they went, "Oh, I love your brownies." And we took a selfie together, and yes, so it overcomes those challenges. But this is a whole different world. So getting into the food market, the hoops you have to jump through for the licensing. How do I price this? It needs to fit people's needs, but if I want to be in business, I have to have this amount, and overcoming the price challenge, because organic and healthy is more expensive. It just is, and none of us are trying to make it that. But if you don't have a genetically modified item, there you go. That's more expensive for the farmer to grow that item without pesticides and all of that. Because I don't know, that's a whole nother subject, okay? But it's more expensive. My ingredients are more expensive. And now, in this last year, some of them have gone up 25%, literally. So that's a challenge, making something that's nutritious and gluten-free and dairy-free are expensive costs, and it's hard. Some people, it's just hard to reach that. That's why I say, and I've done on some of my social media, hey, just have one for lunch. And I'm not saying to everyone have a brownie every day for lunch, but I have met enough people. The person who does eyeglasses where my husband goes, she goes, "Oh, I love your chocolate cherry monster, and I go down to Mother Road Market and get one to have it for lunch." Well, it's absolutely nutritionally sound to do that. Do I do that every day? Absolutely not. I love fruits and vegetables. But if it's expensive for you, think about a $6 or $7 item. It depends on where you buy it, as your lunch or your breakfast. I want to make this affordable, but I'm limited if I want to be in business. So that's been a huge challenge. How can I make this cost less? And when you're in a small kitchen doing your thing as a small business, I can't buy in the volume that Kellogg's or whoever makes items in their huge quantity. The higher the quantity, the less the price. Well, I've already grown to a point where I can buy some things in bulk certainly better than I used to, but this is where we're at, and that's the struggle, the price point for me, and just learning how to do this. My next huge jump, well, how do I get this to go national or global? I certainly need someone who knows how, because this is a team effort here. My son bakes with me. He's incredibly awesome. Yeah, I am so thankful. He's doing that because of COVID. His job ended during that COVID cycle, and he picked up with me and baked with me, so I pay him, and he's continued with it for now. It's not his lifelong dream to bake either, but we're in this together. And my husband, he does the accounting angles and some of that other, he has put things up on the website, so he manages that angle. I do the baking, I do the social media, and I do the marketing. So my angle is, I love marketing the brownie. I love meeting people and telling them about the brownie and hoping that they'll carry the brownie. So the marketing, the social media, and the baking, that's where I am. I can easily replace myself in the baking, and I fully intend to. But I will run with the marketing and the social media. I love that. I love that part. The marketing is challenging because some of the coffee shops, I may walk in there and they've got a gluten-free plate and it's empty. I've encouraged the people who follow me, speak up. If you're gluten-free and dairy-free, you don't always speak up. That's what I've come to realize. So when I go to a coffee shop and I say, hey, I can meet the needs of your gluten-free, vegan, dairy-free person, they're like, well, we don't really have very many customers ask. Oh my goodness, it is growing tremendously, and so many people don't ask and let people know at the places they go, coffee shops or whatever, hey, do you have any gluten-free? They're quiet. So I'm fighting that battle too, trying to get places to realize if you carry these, your customers will be thankful. The one who wants nutrition or the one who wants gluten-free or dairy-free.
That seems like it would increase their customer base, because a whole different group, if they're not already there, maybe would be going there.
Yes.
To have that option available.
People realizing what they eat's important and they want to be healthy, so they're going to eat more healthy. Or there is definitely a need, and if I'm being honest, I'm going to tell you that people are lagging behind. They're thinking there isn't a need just because they personally don't have that need, and they may have a coffee shop, but they're not meeting that need at all. And that's part of my passion is, come on, we need you to do this. I want to go to a coffee shop and be able to choose something that I know is going to nourish my body, enjoy a coffee, and have a brownie that's going to nourish my body if I'm having it for a snack or a treat or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you guys, speak up if you're at places and have those places reach out to Tia, because she would love to be supplying to more places, because that would mean her business is growing. And I mean, it's already been growing by leaps and bounds, but she's
my passion is for people to be able to have something. So yes, I want to get it out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for visiting with me.
It was wonderful.
This was fun.
I appreciate it.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap on this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. It means the world to me, and I'd love to connect with you. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Also, if you like this podcast, it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe, rate, and review it. And as always, all my show notes will be available on my website, sharingpassionandpurpose.com.